last guy was super creepy.
Windlord Mel'jarak is a complicated ad fight that gets a little bit more simple with certain strategy decisions. The fight itself involves a boss character, Windlord himself, and 3 different types of ads which come in sets of 3. The fight itself consists of a boss which is tanked and has various abilities, and 3 different types of ads, each of which has 3 different mobs for that ad type. Now the goal and pattern of the fight is we tank the boss and deal with the ads. Any full set of ad that is killed will then temporarily debuff the boss, which allows us to attack him more effectively for a short period of time. Then those ads will respawn and will repeat, where it's a pattern of killing the ads, which we can't CC, debuff the boss, kill the boss as much as possible, back to ads, back and forth until he's dead. Now, I've referred to being able to CC the ads, and in Heroic, we are limited to only 3 ads are allowed to be CC'd at once. I'll go through what all 3 types of ads are, and then I'll discuss the strategy decisions. The first of these types is an Amber Trapper, and what they do is every 35 seconds, they'll trap a targeted player and anyone within 2 yards of them. And those players are therefore stunned and able to move. You can interact with the Amber ability, like it's like an ice block but with Amber, but the person who interacts to remove the Amber from the player is then provided a debuff, which means they can't interact with the next Amber for a long period of time. I believe it's 2 minutes in total. And so this ability creates this rotation of trying to break people from Amber and staying spread. In addition, this character does a corrosive resin, which is every 35 seconds, a random raider will get a debuff, which stacks to 5, and they get a stacking amount of nature damage. Moving consumes the stack, but then drops a zone denial. And so this counteracts with the idea of spreading, that we're constantly losing ground. All of this together makes Trappers one of the worst type of ad in this fight. The second type are called Blademaster Elites, which they do a strike ability, which means every 40 seconds they do a big physical damage to a random raider, and all 3 target the same raider. And so it's important to really kill off the Blademasters quickly, because having all 3 attack a single raider is pretty deadly, but once they're down to 2 or 1 Blademaster left, it becomes a lot easier to manage. The final type are Menders. They do an ability called Mending, which is a kickable heal, which heals for 25% of whatever their target's health pool is. And so it's super important that every single Mending cast is kicked. They also do an ability called Quickening, which every 45 seconds they put a buff that is dispellable on another one of the ads that increases their damage and attack speed by 25% for 15 seconds. So this Quickening must be dispelled immediately, especially if it's placed on an elite. Finally, the boss does himself a few abilities which are largely movement related. One's called Whirling Blade. He'll pick a random raider, he'll throw a blade towards them, it'll travel across the map from him to the person. That person will dodge the blade, and then the blade returns, and the goal of everyone else is simply don't stand where the blade is or you'll take additional damage. Another ability is called Rain of Blades, where every 1 minute he'll do a bunch of raid rot damage. That is just a healer mechanic to top everybody off. And finally, he does Wind Bomb, which after reaching 75% of his health, he throws a bomb at a random raider, and it does a bunch of nature damage within 5 yards after 3 seconds of landing, where then it explodes. And it's worth noting that it's a permanent thing, and he'll just start throwing wind bombs, and so you just got to get away from a wind bomb when it's placed and don't re-trigger it. It's also worth noting that there's a weapon rack in the fight space that you can click to give your character a special action that is a CC. That specific CC is perfectly good for the fight. You just need to macro focused or something to interact with it in an efficient way. But just to note, what that does is it puts a 50-second stun on a creature that is breakable by damage, so you can't just inadvertently break people's CCs, and you'll just have to reapply it every 50 seconds. Okay, so because you can decide which things you CC, the strategy can be different depending on which guild you're with, but based on research up to now, the suggested strategy is to use all 3 CCs in Heroic on the Amber Trappers. The Amber Trappers themselves just add an incredibly annoying mechanic that just gets in the way of what people want to do, which is Zerg down ads. And so we're going to start by just CCing the 3 Trappers to start the fight. Then when we pull the boss, we'll have all the ads split up and tanked amongst our 2 tanks. We'll make sure to always interrupt the heals, dispel the buffs on the elites, try to kill our elites and Menders as quickly as possible, dodge the boss's abilities, and then Zerg the boss for a bit. Then when the fresh set of Menders and elites respawn, we go back to them, rinse and repeat until the fight is dead.